Come, Nerevar, come. We have discussed the Elder Scrolls series Antagonists several times in the past. However, in my infinite wisdom, I have decided that these antagonists deserve to be on a tier list, and let's see how they compare to me, a god. We have Jagar Tharn from the Elder Scrolls, Arena. He is an Enwa that wanted to be the head honcho of the mongrel dogs of the Empire. He used his power as Imperial Battle Mage to trap the mongrel dog emperor in oblivion and seize the throne for himself. He ruled with an iron fist, and he showed no mercy to the Dunmer who opposed him. Tharn is a weakling. He defeated the Emperor only through trickery and deceit. He was never a true warrior, and he would have been easily defeated if the Eternal Champion had not intervened. Third, Tharn is a fool. He believed that he could rule the Empire indefinitely using nothing but his illusions and magic. He failed to realize that the people of Tamriel would eventually see through his lies and rise up against him. F tier. Why are you looking at me like that, Nerevar? Certainly you can't predict how this is going to go. I am a god. How can you predict a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. Look, Nerevar, I will be straightforward with you, but when it comes to the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, you cannot really point out who is the real antagonist is. You have so many Enwas converging together, it is not discernible. However, the consensus seems to be the Breton Enwa lord named Lord Woodborne, who apparently has the totem of the mongrel dog of the Empire Tiber Septim, and was involved in the conspiracy to eliminate King Lysandus of Daggerfall. He eventually gets absolutely demolished by the agent. He is not even a real antagonist. Nerevar. I will have to give him the F tier. In an Elder Scrolls legend, Battlespire Mehrunes Dagon tried to be a failed Voldemort and wanted to take over a school. A school of all things Nerevar, and was defeated by some Enwa studying there because he had the audacity to steal their partner. Nerevar, imagine being a god, even a false god, and being unable to take over a school. What a fool he is. I will rank him a little later when we get to Oblivion, but already we can see that this Daedric prince is exhibiting F-tier behavior. The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard was quite the failure and nearly bankrupted the whole franchise, and its antagonist, the mongrel dog governor of Stros Makai Amiel Richton, was no better. He was basically your typical rich villain who had a personal agenda of enforcing unfair imperial rule all over Stros Makai. So Cyrus and his sister, with the help of some ragtag pirate group, overthrew him and his Dunmer sidekick. I'd have to give it to him. At least he created jobs for Dunmer. However, I will take a point away for creating hazardous conditions for said Dunmer as he got defeated by a Redguard. Generally, for being an Enwa, a mongrel dog of the Empire, an incompetent governor, and being unable to protect the Dunmer he hired, he belongs in the F tier. Moving on to the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. Nerevar, you know what makes a good antagonist, or should I say protagonist, that is portrayed as an antagonist by the agendas of the mongrel dogs of the Empire and a bunch of other Enwas. A perfect Dunmer antagonist that is not a false god, Nerevar. Of course, Nerevar, you hear the divine synth. Of course we are talking about me, Lord Vorin Dagoth, now known as Dagoth Ur in the flesh. I have harnessed the power of the heart of Lorkhan better than the Tribunal combined, and have since challenged them. While they were losing their power, I was becoming more powerful, and I was building Akulakan while harvesting the power of the heart. Yes, Corpus and the Blight were necessary to bring Morrowind and the rest of Tamriel under complete control of my hive mind, because the only wisdom you ever need is the wisdom of Dagoth Ur. You see, I was also using the Copras to build Akulakan, so it was a necessary evil, Nerevar. However, then you showed up and destroyed the heart using the tools of Kagranak. Is this how you honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned? I said, bring me Wraithguard, I'm in need of it. And instead of joining me when I said it was not too late for my mercy, you used Keening and Sunder against me. Nerevar, you know I did nothing wrong. And I was right in my quest to destroy the false gods and drive the mongrel dogs of the Empire out of Morrowind. In any case, I would place myself in S tier, as I am the only competent villain, if you can even call me that, on this list. Do you know who was the actual antagonist of Morrowind? Vivek. He masterminded my demise. And his infinite pride is the reason the Red Year happened, which was the worst calamity in Morrowind's history. Speaking of tribunal antagonists, in the aptly named Tribunal DLC, the main antagonist is Mother Morrowind herself. I would call this self-righteous and obsessed false god a female Nyxhound. True, she was the last Chimer to ever exist, but honestly, Nerevar, we are Dunmer now, we are not Chimer anymore. Almalexia, who, as a result of your actions, Nerevar, lost her divinity and went absolutely mad and started plotting ways to regain her power. She completely mangled Sota Sil and tried to even get rid of you, Nerevar, but you defeated her, sending her to the void where she was long overdue. F-tier behavior. If you are enjoying this tier list, please honor the 6th house and the tribe unmourned by subscribing to my sermons, raising your thumbs, and writing on the parchment down below. Dagoth Ur did nothing wrong. Moving on to the Blood Moon DLC, and what can I say, Nerevar? Hircine is quite the useless Daedric prince. It was a very lackluster plot point to find out that the Blood Moon and the werewolves and all the mysterious things that were happening on Solstheim were the result of his plan for the Wild Hunt. He used his farm tools to get you, Nerevar, in the same room as that Karstag giant, that Skal Enwa, who eventually turns into a farm tool. And finally, the mongrel dog of the Empire, Falx Carius, who canonically survives and becomes a nuisance for the Dragonborn. Generally, the Wild Hunt is not that exciting, and Hircine is just a weak Daedric prince. He also reminds me of the Forsworn, F-tier. Now we are moving along towards the most dreaded topic, the Elder Scrolls travel series. Nerevar, I will be honest with you. All of these antagonists belong to the F-tier. There is nothing special about them. The Elder Scrolls travels. Stormhold has the mongrel dog of the Empire Warden Varsus, who turns into some oversized creature of unknown origins. F-tier. Speaking of an oversized creature, the ice tribes of Dawnstars from the Elder Scrolls travel. Dawnstar are quite similar. The Gehenoth or whatever that thing is just an overhyped troll, nothing special. It is still a mystery where these ice tribes came from. Anyhow, F-tier. And finally, whatever this mangled insectoid antagonist is from the Elder Scrolls Travel Shadow Key, Umbra Keth, deserves nothing less than the F-tier. I mean, what is this Nerevar? It looks like a Nyxhound. It has some confusing origin, where it's implied it was made during a war or something. Moving along to the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Oh, look, Nerevar, it is Mehrunes Dagon again. After failing to invade a literal school, Nerevar, he is summoned by an Altmer Enwa Mankar Camoran, who is the leader of the Mythic Dawn. Nerevar, let's be honest here, out of all Daedric princes he could have chosen, Camoran chose the one that failed to invade a school. There is Namira, Molag Bal, Vermina, Sheogorath, and many other Daedric princess he could have summoned, and he decides to summon a failed Voldemort? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. So what happens as a result? Martin Septim uses the blood of Akatosh from the Amulet of Kings and stops Mehrunes Dagon as he barely takes a few steps within the Imperial City. Seriously, he only managed to destroy Kvatch and open a few gates here and there. He even got defeated by farm tools down in Black Marsh. What can I say? Nerevar F-tier, always F-tier? No, I do not care if he was once powerful and defeated Molag Bal and all. The fact remains, he really dropped the ball the last 2 times he tried to invade Tamriel. Then you have the Ayleid King from the Knights of the Nine, Umaril, who the Divine Crusader Pelinal Whitestrake did not manage to defeat fully. So the hero of Kvatch cosplays as the Divine Crusader after completing an overglorified fetch quest. Anyhow, the hero of Kvatch destroys Umaril, and that is it. Seriously, very anticlimactic and worthless. F-tier. Finally we get to Jyggalag, the Daedric Prince of Order. When comparing him to other Daedric princes, he is indeed Jyggalag. He was so powerful that other Daedric princes turned him into the Prince of Madness and doomed him to only reappear for a brief moment during the Grey March at the end of each era, which forced him to recreate the Shivering Isles again and again. It took the hero of Kvatch to become the new Sheogorath. To Jyggalag remained a separate entity. However, Nerevar, I will have to rank him as an F-tier among the antagonists. He does not reappear in the subsequent events, and the hero of Kvatch defeats him. He might be an S-tier Daedric prince, but in the grand scheme of things, he does not reach even a fraction of my power. Nerevar, why are you looking at me like that? What do you mean I am being biased? Fine, fine, I will put him in D tier. Blame yourself for ruining the consistency. Now let's talk about the Enwas and farm tools that compose the Skyrim antagonists. Nerevar, what can I say? These are some of the dumbest and the least exciting antagonists. They are a tad bit better than the off-brand Elder Scrolls Antagonists, but when it comes to the main series, they are lacking. First, we start with Alduin, the incompetent farm tool world eater. He could have waited a few seconds before attacking Helgen, and some random Enwa would have removed the greatest threat to his conquest of Skyrim and Tamriel. Still no, he had to be this giant, mean, stereotypical dragon that burns down a village. Later on, he got shouted at by the Dragonborn so much that he had to make an emergency landing where a bunch of Nord Enwas in Sovngarde started attacking and kicking him like also a very stereotypical villain at the end of any cartoon. The Dragonborn did not even have to lift a finger other than shouting. Also, am I the only one who finds dragon speech annoying? It is as bad as Khajiit and Argonian speech, Nerevar. Seriously, they say something in Dova and then translate it, making their speeches much longer than they should be. Anyhow, there is no justification for Alduin to be above F tier. Now we move on to the Dawnguard DLC. How many times have I spoken about Harkon? We have a consensus, Nerevar. He was so obsessed with the prophecy that he threw all of his family to the wayside. Yes, I understand that the sun is just a hole being torn in the sky by Magnus, but blocking it out has a lot of consequences in the same fashion as the disappearance of Maser and Secunda. In any case, had he not alienated his family, especially his daughter Serana, he would have made it. Even if the Dragonborn decides to cooperate with him, he still thinks he can defeat the Dragonborn of all people. Seriously, you want to fulfill a prophecy and then go toe-to-toe with arguably the most powerful Enwa in Tamriel? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. F-tier behavior. The Dragonborn DLC. What can I say, Nerevar? If you sell your soul to Hermaeus Mora, you buy an eventual one-way ticket to the void. Miraak, the first Dragonborn and a dragon priest, is an Enwa that decided to make that stupid mistake. Anyhow, Miraak fashioned himself a god, taking over Solstheim, riding his dragon and brainwashing people for cheap and free labor to build his shrines. Nerevar, what kind of an antagonist is this? With all his misguided wisdom, he also decides to challenge the last Dragonborn. Mora was already bored of him staying in his realm for so long, so he wanted to use another Enwa for his purposes. Of course he was going to get rid of him. Seriously, Nerevar, for the life of me, I could not figure out what Miraak wanted. F-tier forever! This is all for today's sermon. Please don't forget to honor the Sixth House and the tribe, unmourned by subscribing to my sermons, raising your thumbs and commenting on the parchment down below. I would like to thank my patrons Connor Runda, Tonya Davis, Unoriginal Username, Janelle Rambo, Silky Johnson, Vadim C, Sovdark, and Zenobia Wolfmoon.